Hey guys, welcome back to In Session with
Nat
and Ange. Today on the podcast, we have a really, really special guest. We are super excited to have her on with us and to answer so many of our questions that we've been thinking about for a long time and topics that we've been wanting to cover for a while. So we thought no better to do it than Miss Tiffany Tah. So Tiffany, welcome to the podcast.
So nice to meet you both and to be a part of this exciting project. I'm really excited to be here.
We're
so
happy to
excited
have you.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and introduce our audience to you.
Yes, so my name is Tiffany Tah. I'm a marriage and family therapist. I have been in practice for over 20 years. And then about a year and a half ago, I started Community for International Arab, which is a platform focused primarily on emotional health and wellness topics geared towards our cultural experiences and understanding. And we've grown tremendously since then. And it just keeps growing. And the community is so special. And we really talk about things that we don't talk about necessarily as a culture. And we give each other space and support to be able to have these discussions like the one we're about to have.
Wow.
I love that. That's kind of like what we wanted to start with our platform. And we love that you are somebody who can come on and share that with us and share what your line of work is. So that's awesome to hear.
Yeah.
That's absolutely incredible. What do you feel like influenced you? Because you come from an Arab background as well. So what do you feel like influenced you to take that leap of faith and go into the mental health route and, help others who are struggling with their mental health?
Well, mental health was my second career. As a first generation Palestinian American, back then, we were really, career was not the focus. It was about getting married and having children and building a home. So I pursued I pursued human resources as my first career with the idea that it wasn't necessarily a career, just a layover until I find the husband and get married and do what a good bint Arabiya does. Well, that didn't happen. And so over time, because of the cultural messaging and everything that I was going through from an emotional health and wellness, I decided that human resources was not anything that was in alignment with what I wanted to pursue. So I decided to get a degree in marriage and family therapy. And it started from my own healing journey and really seeking what cultural messages was I receiving and how it was impacting my mental health, and then being of service to others in that way. So that's
amazing.
Where it came and what happened.
Yeah.
That's very inspiring.
Yeah. And I like that you mentioned, that us Arab women have the expectation of, just getting married. Like there's no expectation of finding a career for yourself or building your own platform or doing your own thing. It's mostly like, okay, she's going to find shub and then they're going to move forward and have children. But nobody ever talks about the hardships of those expectations and like what that can bring. Because sometimes we fall into something and we don't really think about, is this the right person for me? Or is this person in alignment with my values and my morals? So we kind of wanted to start off the podcast by, introducing the topic of toxic marriages. And we wanted to ask you, what are some unhealthy dynamics you've seen in the marriages you've worked with over the years?
So I think one of the biggest harms that I've seen is people staying in these harmful marriages and hiding the abuse. We come from a very shame-based culture where honor and reputation and what people will say or can override emotional well-being. And that's one of the biggest things, is that when there is abuse or drug addiction, or when there is gambling addiction or any of the addictions, pornography addictions, these things that happen in marriages, or it's not just women that stay, but the men may also stay much longer than what's healthy for them, as well as the children. The other, I think, unhealthy thing that I've seen within our cultural context is the enmeshment with the families. Mm-hmm. So it's not just the couple, it's like the couple and his parents, her parents. It's like everybody is getting involved in this couple's marriage, which can cause significant stressors. Yes. I think those are the two biggest things that I see, is enmeshment with the family and then hiding varying addictions or abuse.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a big, especially when you said shame, the idea behind shame in our culture is so significant, and especially in marriages. And I think we talk about it all the time, how we're also trained in our families of like, if anything is happening within the household, no one can know. Like, nobody can know. We come off as this, like, we present as this perfect family.
We're all perfect.
We have it all together. Our parents are so in love. All the siblings get along. We're perfect.
But behind
no one
doors.
can know behind closed doors. And I'm wondering about like the effects that can cause on, especially if there are children involved, of like, I'm feeling so much about this. My parents aren't going to do anything about it because they don't want to get a divorce, because what will people say about us? But I'm also struggling, and I can't even confide in my friends or my family about it.
That's right. So what you're speaking to is this trauma transition that happens, and generational trauma is the big buzzword right now. And this is where this unprocessed trauma will show up, that many parents, because there's such a high stigma around divorce, that somehow they failed, when it takes an act of courage for two people to say, hey, this is not working out, and for the health of ourselves and our children. So a lot of times out-of families will, that's where it comes to excessive anger, anxiety, hyper control, emotional numbness. And this does get passed down to the children. And so when you have two traumatized, like you come from a traumatic family system, and now you're married and you have two traumatized nervous system married together without healing, well, that's a pretty volatile mix. And then that just gets transferred from one generation to the next until someone who is the cycle breaker in the family says, this is not working, I'm going to divorce. And then that comes with a whole other set of dynamics.
Yeah. Something else you mentioned that I find very interesting, and I see in a lot of Arab families, was the enmeshment of families. Can you talk a little bit more about that and how that's presented and what that looks like typically?
Yeah. So we have to remember in Arab. So first, let me preface by saying, I want this discussion to be this from enmeshment to empowerment, that when we build healthy marital boundaries within our culture, there are many Arab marriages that are stable, loving, deeply committed. Our families are deeply committed. So what we're speaking to is these certain structural and cultural dynamics that are common and risk dysfunction. And so this enmeshment that we're speaking to with the extended family, in-law interference, we hear that a lot, loyalty conflicts. I know growing up it was Dar, Imek, is Hek, or Darabuki Hek, and you see these loyalty conflicts, lack of privacy. So I know we make a lot of jokes that in Arab families, there's not a lot of boundaries. Well, Yes. And it's because of these lack of boundaries and lack of privacy that causes a lot of marital dysfunction. The other piece to this enmeshment is financial entanglement, which so a lot of families have businesses together. They have properties together. They are in the same home. And so what tends to happen is these boundaries become very loose or very weak. And then for the couple, it becomes, they're not the primary team, that everything else in the family is the team. And so the result of that is chronic tension, which we see a lot between the families. We also see triangulation. This usually occurs between son and mother and the wife, right? So if you think of a triangle, right? The mother gets involved between what is happening with the son and her daughter-in-law. And that can happen for a variety of reasons. And so part of what I'm going to encourage anyone who's married, and for the mother-in-laws and father-in-laws family, to ask themselves, who actually holds the power in the marriage? Really looking at the couple. Is the couple having the power in the marriage, or is it the extended family system? And if it's the extended family system, well, because of this enmeshment, there's going to be a lot of fighting, usually. A lot of fighting, a lot of divided loyalties, a lot of deep, deep, deep resentment that nobody talks about. Right. And then if somebody mentions something, then it's seen as disrespectful. We emotionally suppress. Hey, usually it's the wife that gets pinned with, hey, who is she? What is she saying? Versus perhaps these things are coming up because there's a preservation of the couple that's being harmed.
Yeah, I see that a lot within like Arab households where the wife starts to feel secondary. And it's like, it's not like him and her versus the world. It's like the world versus, it's like them versus each other.
Right. And I think you forget that that's what marriage is. It's us against the world.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, I'm just like kind of like thinking about like what people would respond. And I'm wondering like anyone that might come to you and say, well, Tiffany, like, I don't know how I would get out of this enmeshment. We've been enmeshed for years, and he puts his mother on a pedestal, let's say, and like, who am I to get in between? Or I don't know how to break this enmeshment. How do I, work through it? What would you recommend to a couple that is going through that?
So we'll use this example. If it's the husband's mom, where there's an enmeshment, and he is prioritizing his mother's needs over, because that's what the mother's needs always come before, even if she's toxic, unwell, creating manipulative dynamics, the mother's needs will supersede his wife's needs. So when I'm working with an individual, the repair is on the husband to set the boundary with the mother. Yeah. So if I'm working with the wife, I say to the wife, this is not anything you can fix. Yeah. Because if he's not ready to set those boundaries with his mom, or to gently let his mother know, I love you, and I will always be there for you. And it's going to look a little different because now I have my own family.
Right.
That's his task, not hers. I see too many young women try and solve a problem that's not theirs to solve. So the husbands really need to step up to let mom know that this is whatever the behavior is, or whatever is where it's causing the tension.
100%. Yeah.
That he needs to fix that.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. There's a big sense of accountability that needs to be taken, and just acceptance accepting, like, some people might be like, oh, well, it's not that big of a deal. Like, I'm not that enmeshed to my mother, or she's not that involved with everything. Like, you're being dramatic. I think there's a sense of like just acceptance and like recognizing like, hey, this has been a big problem for us and in our marriage, and then take the steps to work through it. And I love that you said it is that responsibility, if that were to be the case, on the husband to have that conversation with his mother.
No,
I let the men know, because I have so much empathy for them, because they are literally caught in the middle of this dynamic, which is profoundly difficult. So it's not lost on me how hard it is. And then they're expected to take on the role of protector and guide, and maybe they're financially supportive of their parents. And what Arab men in this dynamic, what they have to go through is terrible. And they don't even have the skills. No one taught them skills to even remotely manage any of it. And there was so much emotional suppression that for them to even admit that this is hard. I mean, we need to manage expectations, that for the wife to manage expectations, that it may take him a little while to really understand the dynamic.
Right. Yeah. Right. It's so hard. It really is. Yeah. Yeah.
And patience. It takes patience and grace and like,
and self-awareness too. Yeah. I don't think a lot of people are as self-aware as like, the new generation. Like, I feel like the old generation, they understand things are hard, but like, I don't think they understand what the situation at hand is. And I think that's the hard part of trying to tell an Arab parent, like, hey, this is what's going on.
Yeah.
And you need to fix this.
Yeah.
But it's just like, I don't think they have that, like, or I don't think they want to, or I don't think they know how to, or how to seek help. I think it's very, like we said, like, hush, hush. I go through it alone in the dark, and I try to manage the way. But it's just like, no, like, hey, the children are suffering too.
Right. And I think that's what becomes such a problem when it comes to divorce. Like, let's say, like, there's a couple, like, that knows, this is just not for us anymore. And we would be better apart than together. But then it is that, like, okay, like, this is really hard for the kids, but maybe it's better for the kids if we stay together. Maybe, for their reputation, for their sake, we should stay together. Even though I'm miserable, I'm unhappy, this is not working for us, maybe it's best for the kids. And I think that's something that I really kind of want to talk about today too, and like get into, of that divorce stigma, and how it has affected, so many families, and the children, if there are children involved.
Well, before we move into that, with all due respect to the Arab parents, most Arab parents will tell me, of the older generation, we just didn't know. We just don't know. And I think they are trying, many in my experience, are trying to understand the way in which they move is all they know. And so for them, you have to remember, we come from a shame-based culture. So if they're thinking they're moving in a way that they're trying to be helpful and loving, and they're thinking, they don't realize it's poor boundaried and maybe meddling or too much. They're coming from a good place in their heart. And when you call them out that maybe they need to shift, or maybe this is making people uncomfortable, or maybe, when they go over to their son's house, that they're not cleaning out the fridge, or, taking over the daughter's, their daughter-in-law's home, they're thinking they're being helpful. Right. Once it's brought to their awareness, a lot of Arab parents that I've worked with are open. Yet we also have to be patient with their shame of doing something wrong. Right. I think it's important for the generations to really understand that the parents carry their shame too. They carry their own traumas. They've been in survival mode for so long. All they know is their family. For many of our mothers, all they know is their children and their family. And so for the couple and the daughter-in-law, provided the mother is not, because there's some that are really unwell. Okay, so we're not going to go to the extreme. We're kind of going in the bell curve, right? The ones that are just in the middle. That for the daughter-in-law to also understand that to be patient with the parents' process as well. Okay, I think that's really important for us to highlight, because I think it's easy to go into like Arab parent. That the problem is always the Arab parent and how they move. And it really is a dynamic between the generations and how to better communicate with one another.
Oh, I totally agree. I think that's such a good point. I think we tend to forget that a lot of the times because we get so frustrated, that like, how do you not understand? Like, we are in the United States and it's so different now. It's so different these days. And then it really, we forget it so easily. So it's really important to take that into consideration.
Yeah. That's all they've ever known.
It's all they've ever known.
And they carry their own traumas too. So I think it's hard. Like we said, it's just a hard process, but I believe it's possible. And I want to know, in your perspective, like, do you see results in Arabic households of like moving past these traumas or moving past these the dynamics, the unhealthy dynamics?
Yes, I have. It takes a lot of work.
Yes.
So let's make an expectation. So when you talked about divorce, for a couple to really move through, like to stay together and to move through it takes two. Him doing his own individual work, her doing her individual work, and then doing couple work. If she's not open to therapy, or if he's not open to therapy, you can't row a boat with one oar.
Right. Very true.
Right? And so sometimes men in general may be more open to starting with couples therapy. I say, okay, meet him where he's at. If he feels more comfortable with the couples therapy first, provided there's no significant intimate partner violence. And also, like, again, extreme of narcissistic personality disorder. So we're talking, again, the bell curve. It's fine. Yet if they're not doing the work individually, understanding their triggers, the likelihood that they can overcome these things on top of all the cultural things, it's extremely difficult. That's why we're seeing so many unhealthy, toxic Arab marriages, or so much dissatisfaction in the younger generation, because it takes a lot of work.
And what would you say to the children within these that are living in these toxic households or the toxic marriages? Like, how do you give them, like, I guess, some words of, hey, you're going to get through it. Encouragement. There we go.
I let them know it's not their fault. That you could be the perfect child. You could be the scapegoat. You could be whatever your role is in the family, because you're responding to these toxic marital dynamics. It's not your fault. But what is your responsibility is to say, how can you not internalize these dynamics so that it impacts not only your own life and your relationships, whether it's a romantic partnership or even in your friendships or your work relationships. So I let people know straight up, like, yeah, your parents, you probably would have been better off if they were divorced. Yet what they also know, this divorce stigma within our culture is, because I've seen this dynamic many times, the Arab family, if somebody gets divorced, the cousins are like, oh, their parents are divorced. Oh, Hadoli, they're Hadol, right? Look at them.
Like
They're
point them out.
with the divorced parents, right? And so that also, it's not their shame to carry. Yet they're carrying this shame.
Yeah.
And it's really important for us as a society and as a culture to really shift that, to say, if people divorced, that's part of life.
Right.
We don't even look, a lot of times these people didn't have choice in who they married.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times they were maybe reaching a certain age and they married somebody just to please the family without really thinking through, is this the right partner for me? We also don't talk about, and this is going to be heavy, and my apologies to the viewers, a lot of Arab will hide mental illness, drug addiction, porn addiction. They will show that their child who's of married, that they're perfect, right? This idea that look how great they are, hiding from the family that they're marrying into, all the dysfunction. So then now this poor woman is, or usually in those cases, it's hidden with the man in my experience. Well, I've seen it with the woman too, but the person is left with, how come he's like this? What are you doing? And she's like, what? I just married this person and I didn't realize all of this until after we got married. So do you guys see, it's not just about the unhealth, it's what happens before.
Right.
That's leading up to some of the dysfunction.
Right.
And so if you're a child of this dynamic, I let all the kids know, Habibi, Habibti, please, look, I know how hard it is. Part of it is, how do we get you to survive and not get so enmeshed in this toxic soup? Because it's only going to hurt you. It's only hurting you.
Yeah. Yeah, that is, wow. I think when you said, how do we get you to survive? That hit really deep for me, because some of these poor kids, it's like, I can't control my parents, right? Like, I cannot make them separate. I cannot make them work it out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, they feel powerless a lot of the times because they are children. And so they don't have a voice, or may feel like they don't have a voice sometimes. And so they literally don't know how to survive in these, like, what do? I can't escape. I can't run away. I can't leave. So I love that you preface it by saying, first of all, it's not your fault. Like, I think that is very big for a lot of children to hear, because a lot may feel that way in those situations, you know? So yeah, that really hit. That was beautiful.
Yeah. Well, I also think what I've seen is the dynamic where the son becomes the surrogate husband and takes on healing the mother or taking care of the mother. For many daughters, I've seen when there's a toxic or very unhealthy parental dynamic, that she's the role of the peacekeeper, making sure, if she's the eldest daughter, taking care of the younger siblings, making sure everybody is okay.
Yeah. She becomes the parent.
She becomes the parent, yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then how does that impact her later? Over-functioning, hyper-functioning,
overcorrection of partner.
Overcorrecting, taking care of everyone and everything. And then she has nothing left for her own husband.
Oh, interesting.
Wow.
And then you wonder, then there's disconnect, lack of intimacy, because she's giving so much of her energy to everyone and everything that typically the partner is last. Or for the man, he's trying to take care of his family, the provider, and then he has nothing left to give to his wife because he's working 16-hour days. Right. And so you see that it's not just it's the systems that also contribute to these dynamics.
Yeah. Do you typically see the son kind of repeat the cycle? Like kind of what we talked about with like the mother-in-law and the wife and the husband. And then the son, he starts to be the emotional capsule, I guess, for the mom. And then that they become like enmeshed where he feels like he needs to take care of his mother. And then the cycle repeats with him when he gets married. Do you typically see that?
I do see that, although I do see that the younger generation of men are, at least in my experience, are more aware and more connected. If anything, I see younger generation of the Nat, the young women, becoming more rigid in their mindset, not taking any accountability for how they're moving in the dynamic. So it's really interesting to see from a generational shift that sometimes the young men may be more open to fixing or to solving these things.
Really interesting.
Yeah, I never would have thought of it like that.
But when you now, as you mention it, I'm like, wow, that is something I'm actually seeing more, that the women, like in this younger generation, have been more rigid towards like,
that is very true.
It's all him. I haven't done anything wrong. Like, like it's his fault. Like he can work on it. He can blah, blah, blah.
Men suck.
Like, yeah. I mean, we're one to talk.
Well, these dangerous narratives that I've seen where, again, it takes two, it's what's the dynamic between the two. And so I know we've gone too far on this side of blaming men for everything, yet where's the accountability to say, what's my part in this dynamic?
That's true.
And
That's
so going back to your question around divorce stigma, many times in our Arab culture, depending on what community you're from and how how close-knit the community is, leaving could be socially catastrophic for people.
Right.
I think we don't, especially, so that's why couples, because they're so afraid to bring shame to their mama and baba or their lineage.
Yeah.
That couples will stay long after the relationship is dead. Many will divorce once the children are of age, 18, 19, 20. I've seen that where now that my kids are launched and they're in college, now I could be free. Or they wait. And staying does not necessarily equal healthy, because I always tell Arab, I divorced. And, you get words like ikhsara, haram, shufhay, ikhsara, and I thought I'm a waste because of the divorce. Right. However, one thing I can say is that it's better for your child to have two healthy parents separated than two unhealthy, unwell parents together.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so for the Arab girls or even the guys that are out there, thinking about divorce and worried about what the Nas are going to say or bringing shame upon the family, I would say, you'll be today's news. You'll be the talk of the town for a good, couple months. Yeah. After a while, they'll move on from you. That it's not this catastrophic thing, that eventually it's more important for you to focus on how to co-parent, how to engage in the divorce healthily. And sometimes the families can get involved. And again, this enmeshment, they can make divorces very, very messy, especially when money is involved. And I really encourage all, if you're thinking about divorce and you're worried about the stigma, there may be a stigma. and focus your efforts on ensuring that your children have a smooth transition, that you and your partner mediate things with the least amount of conflict. And this is really important to set boundaries with the family. Don't get them involved because everyone's going to have their opinion, and that can cause a lot of anxiety, which then clouds judgment.
Right.
We've talked about that.
Yeah, we've talked a little bit about that. Yeah.
And I think like to add to that, I feel like it might feel very catastrophic to a lot of families because it's not only like we're living with the extended family, we're living in community too.
Right.
So it almost seems like, oh, well, how do I go to this function without like my husband? Or what's going to happen at Christmas? What family am I going to go to? Or like, are my children going to go? It's like a whole thing and a whole dynamic that gets so messy.
Yes.
And so almost lonely. Like it feels like you're being separated from
ostracized
from society when it kind of happens that way. But sometimes it is for the best. And I think, or unless we can all get together and find some self-awareness and do the work, then hey, there's a chance.
You know what I think I also like, I love that you brought that up. I see a lot of women or men typically don't seek couples counseling until, especially Arab couples, until they've reached their absolute max. Like the point where it's like, there is no return from here. I am emotionally checked out. I'm mentally checked out. And it's really heartbreaking because it's like almost like, man, like it took that much hurt and pain for you to come to that decision of, because it's not an easy decision, of course. Divorce in general is not easy. But for you to separate, it took every energy in you to get to that point. So usually when I see some couples that are just like, couples counseling is not going to do much at this point. Like I am out of this completely, and there's no going back for me.
It's like they've developed that chronic contempt that like, I just cannot look at you. I hate you. And so it's just like,
I can't come back.
How do you reverse that? Like, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know if you can. Can you reverse that?
Well, so let's go back a little bit. What's important to understand is these patterns are not uniquely Arab.
Right.
We see similar dynamics in Southeast Asian cultures, Latino culture, conservative religious Western communities, immigrant household under stress. Like this is structure and psychology, not necessarily an Arab thing. Most couples, by the time they come to therapy, it's almost like what do they say? Like when you have a gash, and instead of going to the hospital right away to get it sewn up and put the salve and make sure that it's clean, that most people, when you get a cut, right? And people wait till it gets infected and becomes this huge gash. And so I always let couples know I'm a firm believer in premarital counseling. And even if you're not open to like therapy, at a minimum, do some premarital counseling to make sure you are all on the same page on your values and all these things. Most couples wait because they think tomorrow it'll be better. You get caught up in the kids, or we're so busy, we can't work on this, we can't work on that. And then 2 years later, there's no sex, there's no date nights, there's no intimacy. And then now you're expecting to reconnect when too much time has gone. So I always let couples know, address things early. How do you know it's early? The moment you're like, I don't like his face, right? Yeah. Now there's points in a couple, like, you're not gonna, there's points where you're like, but once it reaches where there's that disdain, you want to go into couples counseling. You want to address it early. But most people think they're delusional into thinking that they had proper modeling. can't believe I just said it like that. It's like we have these delusions of grandeur around how integrated we are. And we're just not.
Yeah.
We're not as healthy as TikTok and Instagram and all these little reels. We're just, no.
We're all messed up.
Well, I call it, what I call human beings, we're a beautiful mess.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a better way to say it.
That's a nicer way to put it.
And not to overestimate your triggers, not to overestimate your awareness. We have a lot of psychological language which people have been weaponizing. I think couples, you're a narcissist, or you're this, and we start to weaponize it without really leaning into the deep, or you're triggering me. Well, what's your responsibility in understanding your trigger?
Right.
Oof.
So these are the conditions that become toxic when we wait too long, and there's no shame. I always tell couples, they're like, Tiffany, I feel so ashamed. I said, how much modeling did you get from your own parents?
That's a
And
good
they say none. I go, well, how are you supposed to know healthy couple communication when your parents were yelling? There was toxicity in the household. Like, Shuyani, you're going to get this information min al-hawa. Like you needed proper modeling, and we didn't get that. So it's okay to go to the people, to the experts. With that said, vet couples counselors, make sure you get a referral. I have a joke. Nothing binds a couple closer than when they have a really terrible couples counselor.
That's really good.
That's funny.
That
Like,
is
well,
so
we're
true.
not that messed up. I said, okay, well, let's avoid that and
Right.
really find a solve. And a couples counselor that is, if you can find one from our community, like Arab community, it's going to be really important that they have the training and knowledge of a collective culture, because when collectivism, patriarchy, trauma, shame intersect, marriage strain increases. And unless the counselor is aware of all these dynamics and layers, that's probably what I see the most effective therapy.
That makes a lot of sense. And I think like in grad school, I mean, I took like one class on cultural competency, and like that was that. Like you don't really have much training, or, it's literally like one class. And so I think it's really important.
You're never going to truly understand like every
of course
cultural thing. So it's just like, it's like one class. They don't really go into it.
No, they don't go in depth about, the different cultures and certain dynamics, but how much can they really go into?
I think it takes like putting yourself out there and actually going out to learn.
Yes, 100%. Yeah. No, that's a really good point. And finding a good couples counselor, I think, is really difficult. A good therapist in general, and it's really sad to say that, but like I feel like it's everyone also like clicks with a different personality.
That's true.
So it's like I always also like to tell clients, like, don't try not to be put off from therapy over one appointment or one therapist. There's a therapist out there for you, and just like try, if you can, like try and try again until you find the one that clicks with you. So I think same goes kind of with couples counseling as well.
And yes, and what you're speaking to is cultural humility, right? And don't get me started, because that's another topic for another day. Even in graduate school, as an Arab, wow, their lack of cultural anything for Arab was horrific.
Yes,
horrific. So anyway, we'll pin that. So what does that mean? What does that mean to your viewers? Really vet the therapist. I would encourage people to get a referral. Even your imam or your priest, or the religious figures. The religious leaders. For those, sometimes people will say, well, Tiffany, I don't want to go to a therapist. I said, well, is there another support that you can go to? even an elder, where they're provided they're healthy and neutral and are able to guide in that way. I don't think therapy is necessarily the only route. However, it's important to vet whoever it is. The main point is to get support from people who have knowledge of this.
Yeah, I
Very
definitely
true.
agree. What other resources would you, guide some of our viewers towards if, they feel like maybe they don't really have a support system they can confide in and they don't really want to go the route of therapy just yet?
The beauty about the internet is that there are multiple podcasts. There is so many resources that couples can do. There's so many books. I professionally and personally like Dr. John Gottman and his work in the field, the 7 principles for making marriage work. I let couples know, okay, if you guys can't afford couples counseling, because it is expensive, then at a minimum, both of you choose a book or a podcast and you watch it together and dedicate time like you would 90-minute couples therapy session, to dedicate that 90 minutes and make it a priority for the two of you to understand your communication styles and listen to a podcast or read a book together and then discuss it. Oh, here's how I show up. I didn't realize I was gaslighting you, or I didn't realize I was stonewalling, right? And because I got triggered when you said that, and then they can work through it. There's also the couples therapy workbook. So it's, again, even with AI tools, you can, go to Gemini or any one of those things and say reflective questions for couples. Now, for the ladies out there, I'm letting you know, do not flood him. Don't flood him. The gals, there'll be like 15 questions, and my clients will say, Tiffany, I wanted to go over all 12 questions. I go, no, just one. Don't flood him. He's probably never talked about feelings in his life, and now you're asking him 12 questions. Start with one. Just give him one question, and then you discuss it. And I think I think that's where a path moving forward, number one, is dedicating time where you're not talking about the household, you're not talking about the children, you're not talking about family stuff, you're talking about what are your dreams? How do I move in the world that can make you feel more safe? How can you move in the world to help me feel more safe and connected to you? Have fun. Couples are not having fun. Go and let loose, have fun, explore one another emotionally, physically. I know as Arab, we don't talk, sex, yeah, I have a shum, but it's a big part of intimacy. And yet here, again, we have to go back and say, if I was taught to be ashamed of my body, and now you want me to open myself up. So a lot of Arab, there are a lot of issues in the bedroom because there's so much shame. Maybe there's exploration, yet there's shame on either his part or her part to explore because they were taught that was what? Dirty. So you guys can see that the path to move forward is to go within, for the couple to acknowledge, address things early, to know that there's nothing wrong with seeking help. There are so many resources. Choose one, just one podcast, one book, and get the skills. For the Arab parents listening to this, I'm going to ask you gently and lovingly and compassionately to allow the couple to make their own decisions as a unit, and trust if they need you, that they're not going to abandon you. They're not going to leave you by doing their own thing. If anything, they want to be closer to you. And that takes, I know that's scary because you have to trust something you don't know. But in leaving the couple to have them figure it out, what you're giving them is not only autonomy, but you're also giving them an opportunity to create their family based on what they know. Does that mean you were wrong or that you did? No, that's how we build generations, is improving upon what you have done, which was beautiful, solid, all the things you've sacrificed. Then let them carry that and create more of what they know. And with each generation, we move through this generational trauma by not staying stuck in these old, archaic ways of thinking, because we're not in that world anymore. And it's okay. There is not one adult child of a Arab that does not want to be near their family. Not one. Even those that have been severely abused and in horrific situations, they want family. It's embedded in us. And so, yet, if we continue to not give our children autonomy, the very thing you're afraid of will happen. They won't want to be around you because they have to choose between their family and you. And at some point, they're going to choose their family. So try not to force them into that choice. Be open, be curious, let go. Pull yourself back from inserting these opinions unless they're a danger to themselves or others. Let them do what they want to do.
Tiffany, that was beautiful.
I was literally in tears. Like that moved
I was holding my tears back.
That moved me so much.
Beautiful.
Oh my
and
gosh.
I think I sense myself getting kind of emotional because I related to a lot of what you were saying, but at the same time, like it just, our culture is so beautiful and there's so much beauty to it. You know, yeah, of course, we have our issues and our flaws, but what culture doesn't? What person doesn't? And it's just like such a beautiful reminder, you know, to, you know, I have that appreciation for it because I do love my family. You do always want to be around your family, but it does get to a point at times where you have to make a harsh decision if that were to be the case. And I don't know, that was very beautiful. And thank you so much. That was a beautiful reminder.
Very beautiful. Yeah.
We appreciate you being on. We are so grateful that you were with us and you were able to share your knowledge, your expertise. We're so grateful for it. So thank you so much, Tiffany, for being with us today.
We really appreciate it. And for me, on my side, that moved me a lot because it was like I'm going into my season of marriage, and what you said really, really resonated because there is that almost that guilt of like, oh, I have to leave my family behind to, you know, fend for themselves. And it just like, I shouldn't be thinking like that. I should be thinking I'm going in to create a new life with my husband, but I also have my family, and that is a blessing. And so it's a very nice reminder for me. And I really, really enjoyed having you on today.
I am so glad. And thank you to the both of you. You guys inspire me every day. It's the younger generation that keeps me doing what I'm doing. I am so grateful for being here and being a part of this. Together, we all heal, all the generations, Mabad, as one people. We heal Mabad. We don't separate from one another, but it takes patience, understanding, and the courage to admit that maybe we don't know things.
I love that.
Maybe we don't know things.
Maybe we don't know things. I'm gonna go with my day with that.
I love that. Thank you so much, Tiffany. For all of you guys watching that are introduced to Tiffany for the first time, maybe some of you guys know her from her social medias. I know you're active on TikTok, on Instagram, YouTube as well.
YouTube as well. You can find me every Wednesday at, what time does my assistant have me on? 8 a.m. Pacific. So we do Wadih Wednesday, 8 a.m., where we talk about emotional health and wellness topics. So you hop on, it's a live, it's 1 hour. We come together as a community. This Wednesday, for those that are interested, we will be continuing to talk about how to empower ourselves during these times. And so those are the topics. The YouTube has lots of free content. I've got tons on Arab relationships and the mother wound, the father wound. So for those of you that even want to explore some of these issues with respect to your partners in your relationship, there's lots of free content there for you to take a look at.
Perfect. That's beautiful.
We'll definitely be checking it out.
We will be checking it out, and we'll link all of that for you guys as well to check it out.
Yeah, lots of, yes.
That's
I
incredible.
love freaking, so.
Of course we do. We'd never say no.
Yeah, never say no.
No.
Well, you guys have a wonderful, wonderful, thank you again
You as
so
well.
much.
Thank you.
So much fun.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye. Have a good
Tiffany.
one. See you.
And that's all for today, guys, on In Session with Nat
And Ange.
Bye.